In this episode of Let's Talk Toads, you'll learn why active management is important to combat virulent nematodes.
Virulence is defined as the ability of soybean cyst nematode to reproduce on a resistant soybean plant. And this has become a really serious issue because 95% of the soybeans that are grown today derive their resistance from a single source of resistance, and it's referred to as PI 88788. As the nematode adapts to reproduce on resistant soybeans, growers are starting to suffer yield losses. And the only way you know whether or not you have a nematode that has adapted to your current source of resistance as a grower is to do a soil test. What you're looking at here is a susceptible soybean plant. And if you look closely below ground, what you'll see is hundreds of these cysts developing on the root system. And each of those cysts is going to produce hundreds of eggs. That nematode is going to go through multiple generations in a single growing season. So if your populations are starting low and you plant susceptible soybeans, your populations will be increased by the end of the growing season, which is the perfect time to soil sample to find out whether or not you have soybean cyst nematode in the soil. If you plant PI 88788 30 years ago, very effective for the grower to bring down population levels below an economic threshold. Today, decades later, repeated planting of the same type of resistance by our growers, because it exists in 95% of the soybeans, we now have issues with adaptation and the development of virulent nematode populations. That soil sample comes into the diagnostic lab, and we can tell that grower whether or not their nematode population has adapted to overcome the current source of resistance that they're planting, PI 88788. And by knowing that allows them to say, oh, well, I have an aggressive population, maybe I should rotate to a different type of resistance. Peking would be a good choice, because the nematodes are not going to be able to reproduce on that type of resistance. We're working to identify additional modes of action and then put them in a rotation that makes sense. Your soybean success starts here.